Sir, there's been a mistake. This seat isn't for people like you. The flight attendant's smile never wavered as she blocked Marcus from entering first class. Marcus Thompson stood in the aircraft doorway, boarding pass in hand, white shirt crisp despite the morning rush. The paper clearly showed 1A. First class. Window seat. Excuse me? His voice remained calm, professional. Jennifer, blonde and 30-something, examined his ticket like it was counterfeit. Computer glitch, she announced loudly. You'll need to move to coach. Passengers turned to stare. Phones emerged from pockets. Someone whispered, "Here we go again." These black stories happen every day. Real-life stories that most people never hear about. But this touching story was different. This time, someone was watching. Someone was recording. Have you ever witnessed injustice and wondered if speaking up would matter? What happened next changed everything. The life stories that matter most often start with a single moment of courage. Marcus held up his boarding pass again. This shows seat 1A, first class. Jennifer's supervisor materialized as if summoned by invisible signals. Tom Bradley, 50s, corporate tie, clipboard clutched like a weapon. His approach drew attention from nearby passengers. Sir, this is a premium cabin. Tom's voice carried that particular tone reserved for people he assumed didn't belong. Are you sure you're in the right place? Positive. Marcus produced his platinum frequent flyer card. Lifetime status. Million-mile member. Tom examined the card with theatrical suspicion. He held it up to the light, checked the back, compared it to some mysterious standard in his mind. I'll need to verify this. The overhead speaker crackled. Flight 447 to Chicago. Boarding complete in 10 minutes. Other first-class passengers watched the drama unfold. A woman in 1B leaned toward her husband. They should check these things better, she whispered, loud enough for Marcus to hear. Tom pulled out his phone, dialed a number. Yes, this is Bradley. I need to verify a status. Card number. He read Marcus's platinum number slowly, deliberately. Marcus noticed the phones. 3 passengers in coach were recording. A young woman with purple hair had her camera pointed directly at the confrontation. Her screen showed red recording symbols. At Travel Justice 23 going live, she whispered to her friend. This is insane. Marcus's phone buzzed. Text message. Board meeting moved to 3 p.m. Don't be late. Sarah. He glanced at the screen, then at his watch. A Rolex Presidential, 18-karat gold. The passenger in 2A noticed it, nudged his companion. System shows the card as valid, Tom announced, ending his call. But company policy requires additional verification for premium upgrades. This isn't an upgrade, Marcus said quietly. I purchased this seat. Sir, I understand your frustration. No. Marcus's voice remained level. You don't. The live stream viewer count climbed. 847, 2,341, 8,976 people watching. Comments flooded the screen. This is 2024? Call the lawyers. Sue them all. Jennifer noticed the phones. Excuse me, could you please respect other passengers' privacy? What privacy? Purple hair girl shot back. This is public discrimination. Tom cleared his throat. Sir, we need to resolve this situation quickly. 8 minutes to departure. Marcus reached into his briefcase, pulled out a sleek leather portfolio. Inside, business cards, documents, a laminated badge with his photo. He set it on the nearby seat but didn't open it. His phone rang. Chicago Tribune on the caller ID. He declined the call. It rang again. Bloomberg News. Declined. A security officer appeared. Rodriguez, Hispanic, 40s, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. Gentlemen, is there a problem here? No problem, Marcus said. Just a misunderstanding about seating. Sir, we need to board the remaining passengers, Rodriguez said. Can you step aside for a brief discussion? More passengers joined the boarding line. The drama was impossible to ignore. Phones multiplied. A man in a Yankees cap started his own live stream. A teenager began posting TikTok videos. The captain emerged from the cockpit. Captain Walsh, Irish accent, graying temples. He whispered with Tom, glanced at Marcus, shook his head. "We can't delay for this situation," Marcus heard him say. 7 minutes to departure. Marcus made a quiet phone call. "Delay the presentation 20 minutes, he said. "Something's come up." The live stream now had 47,000 viewers. Hashtag Flight 407 racism started trending. Local news stations monitored social media trends. Channel 7 sent a crew to the airport. Corporate Twitter account at Skyline Air received dozens of complaints per minute. The notification sound from their phone became a constant chime. District Manager Patricia Hoffman arrived. Sharp business suit, severe expression, tablet in hand. She reviewed Marcus's ticket, frequent flyer status, credit card information. "Everything appears to be in order," she said slowly. "But company policy requires additional verification." "Verification of what exactly?" Marcus asked. "My right to exist in first class?" The question hung in the air. Passengers stopped talking. Even the flight attendants paused their preparations. "Sir, I'm trying to help you," Patricia said. "Are you?" 5 minutes to departure. Ground crew signaled ready for pushback. Other first-class passengers complained about the delay. A businessman in 3C checked his watch repeatedly. A woman in 2B huffed loudly. Marcus remained unnaturally calm. He made another phone call. "Yes, I'm aware of the situation," he said into the phone. "Proceed as planned." Patricia pulled Tom aside. They whispered urgently. Jennifer hovered nearby, no longer smiling. "Mr. Thompson," Patricia said, returning with a forced smile, "we'd like to offer you a voucher for a future first-class flight. $500 value. Very generous." The coach passengers booed. "Take the money!" someone shouted sarcastically. Marcus slowly stood. He straightened his white shirt, adjusted his tie. The movement was deliberate, almost theatrical. "I think," he said quietly, "there's been a misunderstanding about who has power here." The statement seemed odd. A man being denied his seat talking about power. But something in his tone made everyone listen. He reached for his phone again. Marcus dialed a single number. The phone rang once before a crisp female voice answered. "Sarah Mitchell's office." "Sarah, it's Marcus." The name meant nothing to the flight crew, but Marcus held the phone slightly away from his ear, and in the confined space, everyone could hear both sides of the conversation. "Marcus, how was your flight? Are you in Chicago already?" "Actually, I'm still on the plane. One of our aircraft." "Our aircraft? Marcus, what do you mean?" Patricia's face changed. She pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. Google search. Marcus Thompson, CEO. The results loaded. Forbes interviews, Bloomberg profiles, corporate headshots. A familiar face in a familiar white shirt. "Sarah, I need you to connect me to CEO Mitchell, now." "Sir, Mr. Mitchell is in a board meeting." "Tell him Marcus Thompson is calling from Flight 447. He'll take the call." Patricia's hands shook as she scrolled through search results. Marcus Thompson, CEO of Meridian Holdings. Her voice came out as a whisper. Tom Bradley had been watching Patricia's phone over her shoulder. He saw the same search results. His clipboard clattered to the floor, papers scattering. "Sir," Rodriguez said, "maybe we should wait," Marcus said calmly. "This will only take a moment." The live stream viewer count had exploded. 89,000 people watching. Comments flew by too fast to read. Screenshots were being shared on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Purple hair girl's hands trembled as she held her phone. "Oh my God," she whispered. "He's the CEO." Her friend leaned over. CEO of what? I don't know, but look at these search results. Jennifer had backed away from Marcus like he was radioactive. Her confident smile had melted completely. She kept glancing at Tom, at Patricia, at the exit. Sarah, patch me through to Mitchell. Emergency line. Right away, sir. The phone went silent except for hold music. Classical. Vivaldi. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Captain Walsh approached. Mr. Thompson, I'm Captain Walsh. Perhaps we could... Captain, I'd like to speak with your employer first. The hold music stopped. Marcus? A deep male voice, slightly out of breath. What's going on? Sarah said there was an emergency. Hello, David. I'm standing in the first-class cabin of Flight 447. Your crew seems to think I don't belong here. Silence on the other end. Then, Jesus Christ, who's the crew chief? Patricia stepped forward reluctantly. Patricia Hoffman, district manager. Put her on the phone. Patricia took the phone with shaking hands. Mr. Mitchell? Patricia, do you know who you're talking to? Yes, sir. I just realized. Marcus Thompson is the CEO of Meridian Holdings. Meridian Holdings owns 31% of Skyline Airlines. Without Meridian Holdings, we don't exist. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Is there a problem with Mr. Thompson's seat? Patricia looked at Marcus's boarding pass, at his frequent flyer card, at his calm expression. No, sir. No problem. Then why is he calling me? The question hung in the air. Patricia had no answer. Marcus took the phone back. David, your staff accused me of being in the wrong seat. They demanded verification of my ticket, my frequent flyer status, my right to be in first class. They offered me a voucher to move to coach. Marcus, I am so sorry. This is completely... I'm not finished. Marcus's voice remained calm, but something had shifted. Your staff did this in front of a live audience. 89,000 people are watching this conversation right now. David Mitchell's breathing became audible through the phone. 89,000? Check your Twitter mentions. Check your trending hashtags. Check your stock price in about 10 minutes. More silence. David, I need you to ask yourself something. Is this an isolated incident, or is this how Skyline Airlines treats its passengers? Marcus, I can assure you, I don't want assurances, I want data. Marcus opened his leather portfolio. Inside were documents, charts, legal papers. He spread them across the empty seats. I've been documenting discrimination complaints against Skyline Airlines for 6 months. 847 complaints filed, 23 settled, 0 policy changes. The flight crew exchanged glances. Tom Bradley stepped backward, as if distance would protect him. Those numbers represent real people, David. Real humiliation. Real damage. What do you want? I want change. Real change. Systematic change. Marcus glanced at his watch. We're supposed to take off in 2 minutes. I suggest you join us for the flight to Chicago. We have a lot to discuss. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The plane will wait. Marcus ended the call. He looked at Patricia, at Tom, at Jennifer. None of them made eye contact. I assume the flight will be delayed? He asked Captain Walsh. Yes, sir. Technical difficulties. Good. Marcus sat down in seat 1A, his seat, the seat he'd paid for, the seat he'd been denied. He opened his phone, checked the live stream comments. People were sharing the video across every platform. Justice at altitude was trending globally. A young black flight attendant approached nervously. Mr. Thompson, I'm sorry about what happened. This isn't who we are. Marcus looked up at her. What's your name? Keisha? Keisha, how long have you worked for Skyline? 3 years. Have you ever seen anything like this before? She hesitated. Yes, sir. More than I'd like to admit. Then this is exactly who you are. The question is, who do you want to become? Patricia's phone buzzed. Text from CEO Mitchell. Do whatever Thompson wants. Everything. No questions. She showed the message to Tom. He nodded grimly. Mr. Thompson, Patricia said, what would you like us to do? I want you to wait. Mr. Mitchell is coming to discuss policy changes. Major policy changes. Of course. Marcus pulled out his tablet, opened a presentation. While we wait, I'd like to show you something. A comprehensive analysis of discrimination in the airline industry. Real data, real solutions. He turned the screen toward the flight crew. This is what systemic change looks like. The presentation title read, Dignity in Transit, a blueprint for eliminating discrimination in commercial aviation. I've been working on this for 2 years, Marcus said. Today seemed like the perfect day to share it. Jennifer finally spoke. You planned this? I planned to fly to Chicago. Everything else was your choice. The cabin door opened. CEO David Mitchell entered, followed by 2 assistants and a lawyer. His face was red, his breathing labored. Marcus, he said, I came as fast as I could. David, thank you for joining us. I believe we have some things to discuss. The real confrontation was about to begin. David Mitchell surveyed the cabin like a general assessing a battlefield. His eyes moved from Marcus to the flight crew to the passengers still recording with their phones. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the air conditioning. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced to the cabin, I'm David Mitchell, CEO of Skyline Airlines. I sincerely apologize for this delay. We're working to resolve the situation. The situation, Marcus said quietly, is that your staff refused to seat a paying customer in first class. Marcus, please, can we discuss this privately? 93,000 people are watching this live stream, David. Privacy isn't an option. Mitchell's assistant whispered urgently in his ear. He nodded grimly. Mr. Thompson, I want to personally apologize for any inconvenience. Inconvenience? Marcus's voice remained calm, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. David, let me explain something to you. I own 31% of this airline. I sit on your board of directors. I have voting rights on executive compensation, including yours. The cabin fell silent. Even the passengers stopped whispering. But more importantly, Marcus continued, I've been conducting an undercover investigation into discrimination in the airline industry. Today was the final test. He stood, walked to the center of the aisle. 6 months ago, I started flying commercial instead of private. Different airlines, different routes, different circumstances. I documented every interaction. Marcus opened his portfolio, pulled out a thick folder. American Airlines. Denied first-class upgrade despite platinum status. Delta. Questioned about my ability to pay for premium seats. United. Asked to show additional identification for international flights. Patricia's face had gone white. Tom Bradley leaned against the wall for support. But Skyline Airlines, Marcus continued, was the worst. 7 flights over 6 months. Discrimination on every single one. He pulled out his phone, opened a voice recording app. This is Flight 447, March 15, 2024. Flight attendant Jennifer Morrison stated, quote, "This seat isn't for people like you." Jennifer's mouth opened, but no sound emerged. Supervisor Tom Bradley questioned my right to be in first class despite valid documentation. District Manager Patricia Hoffman suggested I accept a voucher and move to coach. Marcus turned to face the live stream camera. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how discrimination works. It's not dramatic, it's not violent, it's quiet, polite, and devastating. CEO Mitchell stepped forward. Marcus, what do you want? I want you to understand the scope of this problem. Marcus pulled out a tablet, opened a presentation. I've documented discrimination complaints against Skyline Airlines for the past 18 months. Not just my experiences, hundreds of passengers. The first slide showed a graph, discrimination complaints by demographic. The numbers were staggering. 847 complaints filed, 23 settled, 0 policy changes, 0 staff retraining, 0 accountability. Mitchell's lawyer whispered in his ear. He nodded. But here's what you don't know, Marcus continued. I've been working with civil rights attorneys, federal investigators, and journalists. This isn't just about one flight. It's about systemic discrimination across the entire industry. He swiped to the next slide. Federal Aviation Administration Anti-Discrimination Protocols. Each violation carries a $27,500 fine. Pattern discrimination triggers federal investigation. Criminal charges are possible. Patricia grabbed Tom's arm. "Did you know?" she whispered. "How could I know?" he hissed back. Marcus heard the exchange. "You couldn't know because you never bothered to learn. You assumed I was lying about my ticket. You assumed I didn't belong in first class. You assumed I wouldn't fight back." The live stream viewer count hit 127,000. Comments flooded social media. #Skyline scandal topped Twitter trends. Other airlines' stock prices began falling as investors worried about industry-wide discrimination. "David," Marcus said, "I need you to make a choice, right now, in front of these witnesses." "What choice?" Option 1. Immediate, comprehensive policy reform. Mandatory bias training for all staff. Independent oversight, transparent reporting, real consequences for discrimination. Mitchell nodded quickly. "Done. Whatever you want." Option 2. Federal investigation, criminal charges, congressional hearings, bankruptcy. "We choose option 1. "Not so fast." Marcus held up his hand. "I haven't finished explaining option 1. He pulled out a legal document. "This is a consent decree, binding legal agreement. Skyline Airlines will implement specific anti-discrimination policies within 90 days. Failure to comply results in $50 million in penalties." The lawyer grabbed the document, scanned it quickly. "This is comprehensive." "It's necessary," Marcus said. "Real change requires real commitment." "What about the staff involved?" Mitchell asked, glancing at Jennifer, Tom, and Patricia. "That's your decision, but understand this. Their actions represent your company culture. If you don't address the culture, you don't solve the problem." Mitchell looked at his employees. Jennifer was crying. Tom stared at the floor. Patricia checked her phone constantly, as if escape might arrive via text message. "Effective immediately," Mitchell announced. "Jennifer Morrison is terminated. Tom Bradley is suspended pending investigation. Patricia Hoffman is demoted and required to complete sensitivity training." "David," Marcus said, "punishment isn't the goal. Education is." "What do you mean?" "I want Jennifer, Tom, and Patricia to undergo comprehensive bias training. Not punishment, education. They'll become advocates for change." Jennifer looked up through her tears. "Why would you help us?" "Because discrimination hurts everyone, including the people who practice it." Marcus turned back to Mitchell. "The consent decree also requires establishment of the Dignity in Transit program. $50,000 annually for scholarships supporting underrepresented students in aviation." "Agreed." "Anonymous reporting system for discrimination incidents. Monthly audits by independent civil rights organizations. Executive compensation tied to diversity metrics." "Agreed." "And one more thing." Marcus smiled for the first time. "I want Keisha promoted to flight supervisor. She's the only person who showed moral courage today." Keisha gasped. "Mr. Thompson, I can't." "You can, and you will. Leadership requires moral courage. You demonstrated that today." The cabin erupted in applause. Passengers cheered. The live stream comments exploded with celebration. Mitchell extended his hand. "Marcus, I give you my word. This changes today." "Your word isn't enough, David, but this is." Marcus held up the signed consent decree. "Legal accountability, real consequences, measurable results." "What happens now?" Now we fly to Chicago. And tomorrow, we change the airline industry. Marcus sat back down in seat 1A, the seat he'd paid for, the seat he'd been denied, the seat that started a revolution. "Ladies and gentlemen," Captain Walsh announced, "we're cleared for takeoff." As the plane pushed back from the gate, Marcus opened his laptop. On the screen, Chicago Tribune interview, 3 p.m. Subject, airline industry discrimination investigation. The real story was just beginning. The plane reached cruising altitude as Marcus opened his laptop. The cabin had settled into an uneasy quiet. David Mitchell sat across the aisle, reviewing the consent decree with his legal team. "David," Marcus said, "we need to discuss implementation timelines." Of course. Mitchell moved to the seat beside Marcus. "What's your timeline?" 90 days for policy changes, 30 days for bias training, immediate termination protocols for discrimination violations. Marcus pulled up a detailed spreadsheet. "I've been working with employment lawyers, civil rights organizations, and federal investigators. This isn't theoretical. It's operational." The first tab showed financial projections. Bias training costs, $200,000 annually. Anonymous reporting system, $50,000 for setup, $25,000 monthly maintenance. Independent audits, $75,000 quarterly. "That's significant investment," Mitchell said. "Compare it to lawsuit settlements. Last year, Skyline paid $4.7 million in discrimination settlements. This program costs $800,000 annually." Mitchell's lawyer leaned over. "The math works." "But more importantly," Marcus continued, "discrimination costs you customers, revenue, reputation, brand value." He opened another tab. Social media analysis from the past hour. Negative sentiment about Skyline Airlines increased 400%. Competitor airlines are gaining followers as customers threaten to switch. Mitchell checked his phone. "Our stock price is down 6%. It'll recover when you announce the reform program. Investors value accountability." Marcus clicked to a new document. "Here's the announcement template. Press release goes out tomorrow morning. Full transparency about the discrimination problem and comprehensive solution." "Marcus, this is thorough. I've been planning this for 2 years. Today was the catalyst, not the beginning." Patricia Hoffman approached nervously. "Mr. Thompson, may I speak with you?" "Of course. I want to apologize. What I did was wrong. I knew it was wrong when I did it." "Why did you do it?" Because I thought I could. Because I thought you wouldn't fight back. Because I thought no one would care." Marcus studied her face. "Patricia, discrimination isn't about hatred. It's about assumptions. You assumed I didn't belong in first class. Why?" "Because..." She struggled with the words. "Because I've never seen someone who looks like you in first class who wasn't an athlete or entertainer. And that assumption led to what behavior? Questioning your ticket, demanding extra verification, treating you like a potential threat instead of a customer. Now you understand the problem. How do we solve it?" Patricia sat down. "Education, training, accountability, making sure this never happens again." "Exactly. You're not evil, Patricia. You're human. Humans make assumptions. The key is recognizing and changing those assumptions." Tom Bradley joined the conversation. "Mr. Thompson, I've been thinking about what you said, about documented complaints." "Yes? I've handled dozens of situations like this. I always assumed the passengers were lying or exaggerating. I never considered that I might be wrong." "What changed your mind?" "The live stream, seeing myself through other people's eyes, realizing how my behavior looked to the world." Marcus nodded. "That's the power of transparency. When actions have consequences, behavior changes." Jennifer approached last. Her makeup was smudged, her confidence shattered. "Mr. Thompson, I know I'm fired. but I want to understand something. What? You could have ruined my life. Instead, you're trying to help me learn. Why? Because revenge is temporary. Education is permanent. You can't undo what happened today, but you can make sure it never happens again. Marcus opened his phone, showed Jennifer the live stream comments. Look at these. Hundreds of people sharing their own discrimination stories. You're not alone in making this mistake. But I am responsible for my actions. Yes. And now you're responsible for your growth. CEO Mitchell had been listening to the conversations. Marcus, I'm beginning to understand. This isn't about punishment. It's about transformation. Exactly. Skyline Airlines can become a model for the industry, leading change instead of resisting it. What would that look like? Marcus pulled up a presentation titled Dignity in Transit, Implementation Plan. Phase 1. Immediate policy changes. Zero tolerance for discrimination. Clear reporting procedures. Swift consequences for violations. Phase 2. Comprehensive staff training. Not just sensitivity training. Bias recognition. Cultural competency. Customer service excellence. Phase 3. Systemic monitoring. AI-powered analysis of customer interactions. Regular audits. Continuous improvement. Phase 4. Industry leadership. Sharing best practices. Setting standards. Leading by example. Mitchell reviewed each phase. This is ambitious. It's necessary. The airline industry is decades behind other sectors in addressing discrimination. Someone needs to lead. And you think Skyline can be that leader? I think Skyline has to be that leader. You have the most to lose and the most to gain. Captain Walsh joined the conversation. Mr. Thompson, I've been flying for 28 years. I've seen things that made me uncomfortable, but I never knew how to address them. What kind of things? Passengers questioned about their tickets, extra security screening, assumptions about ability to pay, small things that add up to big problems. Captain, you're in a position of authority. Your voice matters. What can I do? Start with your crew. Make it clear that discrimination has consequences. Create a culture where speaking up is rewarded, not punished. Marcus turned to address the entire first-class cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, you witnessed something today. You have a choice. You can pretend it didn't happen, or you can become part of the solution. A businessman in seat 3C raised his hand. What can we do? Document discrimination when you see it. Report it. Support victims. Use your privilege to create change. How? If you see someone being treated unfairly, speak up. If you witness discrimination, record it. If you have influence, use it. The woman in 1B, who had whispered about checking things better, looked uncomfortable. Mr. Thompson, I owe you an apology. Why? My comment earlier. It was wrong. I was wrong. What did you learn? That my assumptions were harmful, that staying silent makes me complicit, that I need to do better. Marcus nodded. That's all any of us can do. Recognize our mistakes and do better. His phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. Chicago Tribune moved interview to 2 p.m. They want to go live. David, Marcus said, are you ready to announce these changes publicly? Yes, but I want to do it right, with you beside me. This isn't about me, it's about systemic change. But you're the catalyst. Without you, this conversation never happens. Marcus considered this. Fine, but the focus stays on policy changes, not personal drama. Agreed. Mitchell pulled out his phone, called his communications director. Linda, I need to schedule a press conference for tomorrow morning. Major policy announcement. Industry-leading anti-discrimination program. And Linda, Marcus added, make sure the announcement includes concrete details, implementation timelines, measurable outcomes, accountability mechanisms. Of course. As the plane began its descent into Chicago, Marcus looked out the window at the city below. David, this is just the beginning. Real change takes time, commitment, and constant vigilance. I understand. Do you? Because tomorrow, when the cameras stop rolling and the attention fades, the real work begins. Training staff, changing culture, measuring results, sustaining progress. Marcus, I give you my word. This changes today. Your word isn't enough, but this is. Marcus held up the signed consent decree. Legal accountability, real consequences, measurable results. The plane touched down at O'Hare International Airport. As passengers prepared to disembark, Marcus stood and addressed the cabin one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, you witnessed history today. Not because of what happened to me, but because of what you chose to do about it. You recorded, you shared, you cared. That's how change happens. Applause filled the cabin. The live stream, still running, captured the moment. 145,000 viewers watched as passengers stood and cheered. Remember, Marcus said, discrimination thrives in silence. Transparency is its enemy. Never stop watching, never stop caring, never stop fighting for dignity. The plane door opened. Marcus Thompson, CEO of Meridian Holdings, walked off Flight 447 a different man than he had boarded. Not because of what happened to him, but because of what he had chosen to do about it. 3 weeks after Flight 447, Marcus stood in Skyline Airlines corporate headquarters. The boardroom buzzed with activity as executives, lawyers, and civil rights advocates reviewed implementation progress. Training completion rate, 87%, reported Linda Chen, the new Director of Diversity and Inclusion. Average score on bias recognition assessments, 92%. David Mitchell nodded approvingly. Discrimination complaints? Down 63% from last month. More importantly, resolution time improved from 45 days to 72 hours. Marcus reviewed the data on his tablet. What about the anonymous reporting system? 47 reports submitted. 23 were valid discrimination concerns, all resolved within policy guidelines. Staff response? Initially resistant, now increasingly supportive. Employee satisfaction scores are up 18%. Patricia Hoffman entered the room. She looked different, more confident, less defensive. Mr. Thompson, I wanted to update you on the bias training program. How's it going? Challenging, eye-opening, necessary. She sat down. I completed the advanced program last week. I'm now certified to train other managers. How do you feel about that? Scared, excited, responsible. I understand now that my behavior that day wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern I never recognized. Marcus smiled. That's exactly the kind of self-awareness we need. Jennifer Morrison joined the meeting via video call. She was working as a customer service representative for a small regional airline, having completed her bias training program. Mr. Thompson, she said, I wanted to thank you. The training program changed my life. How so? I understand now that my behavior came from unconscious bias. I made assumptions about people based on their appearance. I treated customers differently based on my stereotypes. And now? Now I question my assumptions. I treat every customer with dignity and respect. I'm actually a better employee because of what I learned. Tom Bradley had been reassigned to ground operations. Mr. Thompson, I've been working with the new protocols for 3 weeks. I wanted to share some observations. Please. The staff initially saw the changes as punishment. Now they see them as protection. Clear guidelines help us serve customers better. Examples? Yesterday, a young black man approached my gate with a first-class ticket. Old me would have questioned him. New me welcomed him aboard and offered assistance with his luggage. What was the result? He was a software engineer flying to a conference. He thanked me for the excellent service, left a positive review mentioning me specifically. Marcus nodded. Dignity creates customer loyalty. CEO Mitchell stood up. Marcus, I want to show you something. He pulled up a presentation on the main screen. Financial impact of the Dignity Program. The first slide showed customer satisfaction scores. Up 22% across all metrics, highest scores in company history. Revenue impact? Bookings up 15%, premium cabin sales up 28%, customer retention up 31%. Stock price? Recovered completely, up 8% from pre-incident levels. Investors view the program as competitive advantage. Marcus studied the numbers. What about industry response? American Airlines announced similar program last week. Delta is conducting internal bias audit. United hired diversity consultants. Good. Competition drives improvement. Linda Chen pulled up social media analytics. Public sentiment completely reversed. #Skyline, scandal became #Skyline leadership. Positive mentions up 400%. The Chicago Tribune article? Marcus asked. 12 million views, syndicated to 47 newspapers, generated international coverage. Impact on discrimination complaints industry-wide? Down 18% across all major airlines. Fear of public exposure is driving behavior change. Marcus's phone buzzed. Text from Keisha. First week as supervisor complete. Staff responding well to dignity-focused leadership approach. He smiled. How's Keisha doing in her new role? Exceptional, Mitchell said. Staff love her. Customer feedback is overwhelmingly positive. She's become a symbol of positive change. She always had leadership potential. She just needed opportunity. The Federal Aviation Administration representative joined by video call. Mr. Thompson, I wanted to update you on the regulatory response. Please. The FAA is implementing industry-wide anti-discrimination guidelines based on Skyline's program. You've essentially created the new standard. Timeline? 6 months for initial implementation, 12 months for full compliance. Non-compliance results in significant penalties. Marcus turned to Mitchell. David, how does it feel to be setting industry standards? Honestly, terrifying and exhilarating. We went from crisis to leadership in 3 weeks. The crisis was always there. You just couldn't see it. And now? Now we're building something better. Not just for Skyline, but for the entire industry. The meeting concluded with action items and timelines. As participants filed out, Marcus remained behind with Mitchell. David, I want to talk about sustainability. What do you mean? Change is easy to announce. Sustaining change is harder. When the media attention fades, when the initial enthusiasm wanes, how do you maintain momentum? Mitchell sat down. I've been thinking about that. The consent decree provides legal accountability, but what about cultural accountability? Exactly. Legal requirements create minimum standards. Cultural transformation creates lasting change. Marcus pulled up a document on his tablet. I've been working with organizational psychologists. Sustainable change requires 3 elements: systems, stories, and symbols. Explain. Systems, policies, procedures, measurements. You're implementing those now. Stories. Narratives that reinforce desired behavior. Every success story, every customer testimonial, every positive outcome needs to be shared. Symbols, visible representations of change. Keisha's promotion. The Dignity Program logo, the annual award ceremony. How do we maintain focus over time? Monthly progress reports, quarterly audits, annual assessments. Continuous improvement becomes part of your culture. Marcus stood up. David, 3 months ago, Skyline Airlines was a discrimination lawsuit waiting to happen. Today, you're setting industry standards. That's transformation. It's not complete yet. It never will be. Fighting discrimination is ongoing work. The moment you think you've solved it, you become vulnerable to backsliding. What's next? International expansion. Other industries? The Dignity Program has applications beyond airlines. You want to scale this? I want to eliminate discrimination everywhere. Airlines was just the beginning. Marcus gathered his papers. David, I need to catch a flight. Flying commercial? Always. How else would I know if the changes are working? As Marcus left the boardroom, he passed the new Dignity in Transit poster in the hallway. It showed diverse passengers in various cabin classes, all treated with equal respect. The tagline read, "Every passenger matters. Every interaction counts. Every moment is an opportunity for dignity." He smiled. 3 weeks ago, that poster would have been empty corporate messaging. Today, it represented genuine commitment to change. His phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. "Senate hearing on airline discrimination scheduled for next month. They want you to testify." Marcus typed back, "Time to make this a federal issue." The revolution was spreading. 6 months later, Marcus sat in his office reviewing quarterly reports. The numbers told a story of transformation that exceeded even his ambitious expectations. Skyline Airlines had become the industry leader in customer satisfaction. Discrimination complaints had dropped 87%. Employee satisfaction reached all-time highs. Stock price had increased 43%. But more importantly, the ripple effects were transforming the entire transportation industry. American Airlines had implemented similar programs. Delta had hired its first chief dignity officer. United had established a passenger advocacy department. Southwest had created bias training for all employees. The Federal Aviation Administration had mandated anti-discrimination policies for all commercial airlines. The Department of Transportation was exploring similar requirements for trains, buses, and rental car companies. Marcus's phone rang. CNN. "Mr. Thompson, we're doing a 6-month follow-up story. Any comments?" "The system is working, but vigilance is eternal. Discrimination doesn't disappear overnight." "What's next?" "International expansion. The Dignity program is launching in Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Discrimination is a global problem requiring global solutions." "Any regrets about that day on Flight 4 and 47? "Only that it took so long to happen. How many people suffered discrimination while I was flying private jets?" After ending the call, Marcus reviewed his calendar. Senate hearing next week. European Union meeting the following month. United Nations Human Rights Council presentation in December. What started as a refused seat had become a global movement. His assistant knocked. "Mr. Thompson, there's someone here to see you." Keisha entered, now wearing a Skyline Airlines supervisor uniform. "Marcus, I wanted to thank you again." "For what?" "For seeing leadership potential when I couldn't see it myself. For giving me opportunity to create change." "You earned it." "I have news. The Dignity program has been adopted by 23 airlines worldwide. Discrimination complaints across the industry are down 42%. More importantly, people feel safe when they travel. Dignified, respected. That's priceless." Marcus smiled. "Keisha, you've become a symbol of positive change. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." "I won't." "And Marcus, next month's employee satisfaction survey shows something interesting." "What?" "Staff who completed bias training report higher job satisfaction than those who haven't. They feel more confident, more competent, more connected to their work. Dignity benefits everyone." "Exactly." As Keisha left, Marcus reflected on the transformation. One moment of discrimination had sparked systematic change across an entire industry. But the real victory wasn't corporate policy or legal compliance. The real victory was human dignity. His phone displayed a text from Jennifer. 1 year sober, new job at Delta, leading their bias training program. Thank you for believing in redemption. Another text from Tom. Promoted to regional manager, using dignity principles in my leadership approach. Results speak for themselves. And Patricia. Completing my master's in organizational psychology. Thesis topic. From discrimination to dignity, a case study in corporate transformation. Marcus had learned something profound. Punishment destroys, but education transforms. Revenge is temporary, but reform is permanent. These real-life stories matter because they prove change is possible. When we share touching stories of transformation, we inspire others to examine their own biases. Life stories like these remind us that dignity isn't negotiable. The movement that began with Black stories of discrimination had become a universal demand for respect. Marcus opened his laptop, began typing his next article. The Dignity Revolution: How One Flight Changed Everything. He paused, looked out his window at the city below, and smiled. Change was no longer coming. Change was here. What's your story of witnessing or experiencing discrimination? Share it in the comments below. Tag someone who needs to see this message. Subscribe for more real-life stories of justice and transformation. Together, we can make dignity the standard, not the exception.